Welcome to Disruptive Successor, a show for next generation leaders in family businesses and entrepreneurs who want to disrupt the status quo and take their existing business to a whole new level. We all know that what got us here isn't going to get us there. This show will provide inspiration, advice, and resources to help you create massive impact. This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Hi, it's Jonathan Goldhill, and welcome back to another episode of the Disruptive Successor Show. My guest today is Franco Perez. He's a revolutionary entrepreneur and the driving force behind Franco Mobile Homes. He is a standout figure in affordable housing innovation. His journey from experiencing housing instability to becoming a pioneer in affordable housing solutions has made waves in the industry and caught the eyes of major outlets like Forbes and ABS-CBN News. Having grown up in a family with an unstable housing situation, Franco is on a mission to create affordable housing in Silicon Valley and beyond. He discovered that the Bay Area's mobile home parks offer an abundance of underused land with great growth potential. After years of dedication to his vision, Franco has established a devoted team of like-minded individuals who believe that their positive impact equals success. Inspired to reimagine mobile homes and expand affordable housing opportunities across the Bay Area, Franco's talented team strives to unlock the pathway to homeownership and help families establish financial security where it might otherwise seem impossible, especially in post-pandemic times. Franco wants to help people who are in his shoes experiencing the same pain he went through and make their lives a little bit easier. Franco, what a great story. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks for welcoming me with that great intro, and I'm happy to be here. So I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit more about the backstory here. It's pretty colorful, and as is your background for those who are tuning in on YouTube. Franco is you're a colorful looking individual. I like it. And so tell us about what it was like, where you grew up, how you grew up, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So I'll make it as I'll try to make it as simplified and quick as possible. But long story short, grew up in the Philippines at a young age. Had immigrant parents move over here to California when I was about 15 years old. Was in a weird housing situation where my parents divorced. They lost the house. And my dad was the main breadwinner at the time and our only source of income. But he left our family, left my mom as a single mom and me, and then my younger sister. As soon as that happened when I was 17, 18 years old, me and my mom were fighting to try to find housing. We were renting a room for a long time. I was working 2 jobs. She was working 1 job. And I remember still vividly at the end of every month, putting cans together just to gather up money so that we can afford a month's rent. And that to me was one of the hardest times of my life, and a very difficult time, just playing with this rat race of paying rent and not knowing if we're going to make ends meet. And I express that today because I know that currently, as we're speaking, there are families out there right now that are having that same level of anxiety, just working multiple jobs, very humble people, and just trying to survive with housing. And that being said, got out of that rental situation. I eventually became a real estate agent. But then after being a real estate agent for a long while, I actually ended up hating being a real estate agent. Inside of me, it just didn't feel right. I was being trained to help the wealthiest people I can help get the most expensive investments that they can get. And it's a sad world, but also I was kind of being trained to, hey, I had to say no to people that were in my shoes, that were in my pain back then. I had to say, hey, you don't make enough money. You don't have enough saved as a down payment. Save more, make more, and I can help you later down the line.
Mm.
But to me, I remember the struggle I went through trying to find advice, trying to find help, trying to get guidance. And I wanted to build something that would help create a stepping stone, create consulting, create advice for those that really do need help. Um, I left being a real estate agent. I really explored government work a little bit in affordable housing. Didn't like that either. And I accidentally stumbled across mobile homes. And from what I thought mobile homes were, I thought it was like trailer trash. I thought it was for criminals and drug dealers and horrible quality homes. But come to find out, this country is filled with a lot of mobile home parks in prime areas. I've lived in the Silicon Valley for 7 years already, and I didn't realize there's over 60 mobile home parks spread throughout our area, and it's spread throughout our country as well. So after realizing what mobile home parks were, I realized it's a perfect stepping stone, and it's actually a beautiful place for people to start their wealth building journey. It's a perfect place for people to get out of the rental rat race and start home ownership. So we built a business to help people get out of renting into mobile home ownership and help them transition from mobile homes to single family home ownership, and built our business that way. And then in the more recent time, now we're kind of popular for converting old trailers, old mobile home single wides into large, luxurious manufactured homes inside these mobile home parks. So we're converting these homes from 700 square feet all the way to 1,800 square foot homes with 12-foot high ceilings, as modern and as contemporary as could be. We are actually calling them sexy mobile homes because of how beautiful they are. So that's kind of where we're at today, and we've been really fast growing, and we're so proud of our team for helping a lot of families be able to start their wealth building journey.
So I think it's a great story, first of all. And what is behind this story is a huge why or purpose, which is so popular among young people today. Simon Sinek, as you probably know, wrote the book Start With Why and created a whole generation of people that are really connected to the idea of purpose and why are they doing what they're doing. What you're doing is pretty understandable, but the why behind it is what's so compelling. And it's so obvious to hear that you have a strong purpose and a mission, and that your team is, it's connected to that, and it's really alive and well. And let's just talk also about housing insecurity and instability, and food insecurity and instability. These are basic needs that we have in this country, and yet, I mean, there's not enough affordable housing in the inner cities, in places like Silicon Valley and Los Angeles, San Francisco, where there's not housing for service workers. And the government is maybe trying to step up and do some things. I read an article in the New York Times recently about Paris, and some significant, like 1/3 of all the housing in Paris is government subsidized or supported. So that service workers, the people who are doing landscaping and restaurant and jobs that many people want to pass up, don't have they couldn't get to it because it's too far of a commute. So what you're doing from a purpose standpoint is really, really moving.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that, and it is so important that we build that sense of financial security, and like you said, it is a foundation for many people. How it starts with housing.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the mobile home concept, because, by the way, I've seen some manufactured homes that I wanted to buy because they were so gorgeous. And they literally, like, if they can carry them in on a truck and a crane and drop them in place, they're pretty amazing. but mobile homes still have kind of a stigma attached to them. That they're dirt lots. They're kind of funky. It's not great because you don't own the land underneath it, and the rents underneath the land. If you're in a mobile home park in Malibu, for instance, can be really expensive. Um,
Mhm.
how did you transition people out of the away from the stigma? How did you destigmatize buying a mobile home and getting someone out of poverty?
Yeah, so I guess it really comes down to, I guess my background and myself when I was growing. What's interesting is that understanding the core problem and understanding where the issues are, because there's income inequality and then there's housing inequality, but also there's not just a wealth gap, but there's an information gap. And I think starting at a young age, what's fascinating is I was never wealthy. I was kind of with a poor family, but my circle and my bubble, what we know is common is actually different from, after I've grown with business owners, what's common with them is actually quite different, right? And the not information that's actually not shared is really understanding our personal cash flow and understanding why owning is important and understanding how do we leverage loans to get assets. We all understand that, hey, buying real estate is great. You get appreciation, you get tax benefits, you get to leverage a loan to build up your net worth. But the core problem really is that there's this huge gap in housing now, and I'll express numbers in the Silicon Valley, and they might seem high compared to the rest of the country, but understand that the ratios are kind of the same. So if a family of four wanted to rent a two-bedroom apartment in the Silicon Valley, it would be about $3,400 a month. And if they wanted to buy a single family home, you're looking at a median price of $1.5 million and up, right?
That's
Huge gap.
crazy. Yeah.
It's horrible. And how does a teacher or like a service worker that's paying for all of this rent ever dream of one day purchasing a single family home? They're just keeping up. This payment's already heavy enough for them. If that family wanted to buy a single family home and put 10% down, that's $150,000 and a monthly payment of about $7,500 a month. It's a huge
Unaffordable.
leap,
Yeah.
and there's a huge gap. Now, what's beautiful about mobile homes is that it's very much like a hybrid in between. You mentioned there's a space rent. You don't own the land. There is a rental element to it. But what people don't realize that's golden is that there's a lot of the home ownership element to it as well, right? So if a family wanted to purchase a mobile home in our area, let's say it's about $300,000 a month. They have a space rent of $1,000, but this home would
Three
be
hundred
three
thousand
bedroom.
dollars a month, you said. You
So I'm
meant
sorry, I made a
thr-
mistake. $300,000 purchase price
right,
and $1,000 a month on the
right,
space rent. So
right.
if I break that down, 10% down would be $30,000,
Mm-hmm.
and their monthly payment on the space rent would be $1,000, and their mortgage would be about $2,700.
Right.
So that itself is a monthly payment of about $4,000 after insurance and that type of thing. Just a little bit more than what they were paying in the rental model. But
Mm-hmm.
with a mobile home, they actually have a little bit bigger of a home, and it's something that they can call theirs, and
Mm-hmm.
they get the benefits of home ownership. The tax, they get the tax breaks, they get to leverage a loan to be able to build up their net worth, and they get the appreciation, which is something that's misunderstood in this space as well. These homes are appreciating in value, and just by a family shifting from a full rental model, and we all know that you can rent a home for 5 years, and all that money that you spent, you get none of that back.
Right.
Now, once you shift that model to the mobile home model, you're paying about the same amount in payment, and that down payment is actually still yours when you sell it later down the line. But that value that you're getting is the appreciation, and you get to capture a lot of that money that goes into the asset itself, so that 5 years later, you sell that home, and guess what? Now you have an extra $90,000 in your pocket, right? And it's that shift in your personal cash flow that's really making the difference for these middle class families to allow for this to be a stepping stone out of that full rent rat race into a better cash flow of mobile home ownership. And then this is allowing people to now have a chance at buying real estate down the line. And it also allows for families to have better financial security, for those teachers to have, feel more secure in our area as well.
It makes a lot of sense. Look, the true cost of renting can be really high and can keep you poor because you're just sort of throwing money out the window, so to speak. And it only would work if people were taking savings and creating some kind of a forced savings plan and investing it in some other type of asset class and making a good return on that money. But most people don't do that. Most people end up spending that extra spending money. And by having a home that might cost a little bit more, it's a forced savings plan. Interesting question. And I wonder if there's any data or if you know the data. Like, what is the average tenancy or ownership of a mobile home owner? Are they staying there for long periods of time, longer than homeowners? Are they moving up, so to speak, into into another home or a bigger home? Is there any data around that you're aware of?
Yeah, so in single family home ownership, typically people stay for about 7 to 10 years.
Right.
And mobile homes, we're actually starting to see between 3 to 6 years.
Okay.
And I see with that is because we see a lot of there's a little bit more turnover, because what's fascinating as well is it's less of a commitment. It's a third or less of the price of a single family home. So they're able to make better moves, and it's a bit more flexible. What's also a flaw of huge single family home ownership is that when you buy a $1.5 million home, you can't justify moving in 3 to 6 years
Hmm.
because it's such a huge commitment, right?
Right.
So that's part of the flexibility of it as well.
Interesting. So, what a great alternative for people. And I've seen some of the pictures on your website and on your videos. These are really pretty nice homes. Matter of fact, I looked at a few of those homes for myself, thinking they were great. I didn't love that they didn't have much space attached to them and some of the locations, but the homes themselves were quite nice. So
Oh,
let's talk about millennials. We read a lot in the papers that millennials are delaying home ownership purchases. They're not choosing to own cars. They're not choosing to own homes. They're there's this notion that they can live in the shared space economy with cars, homes, et cetera. Are you finding that media, that news that's coming across the media is really accurate, or is there a younger generation that does want to get into home ownership and they're seeking out options like what you're presenting?
we're seeing that a lot, especially here in the Silicon Valley. And I'm a millennial myself, and I can totally relate with that understanding. And with what you said, it does have a lot to do with kind of media influence, and then also with the information that we're giving, and also the options that we have. And you asked earlier kind of how are we helping people understand this and realize, and that's part of why we're on these shows, is we're very passionate about educating. And what's helped with millennials in that shift is teaching through YouTube, through social media, showing real life scenarios of a family making X amount versus a family making, I mean, two families that have the same scenario in the renting versus owning model, right? But what's fascinating with millennials is that they're very, very visual.
Hmm.
They want to see the numbers. They learn all of their information through YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, right? So that's very that's a very important part to the millennials themselves, but also they have a habit to want everything to be great and amazing. It's it's interesting watching these rental companies really sell the feature benefits of renting, right? But like we know, it's not always going to be the best long-term decision for them. But they want perfect homes. They want modern and contemporary. So that's part of why we design and build our homes as contemporary as could be, with smart tech, thermostats, all Alexa controlled switches and that type of thing as well. And we're starting to get more and more millennials involved. But it's interesting. They are saving money. They are very aware of their finances, but they also need to be educated of their options as well.
I think that there's a great job, like a task, in dispelling the prevalent misconceptions and stigma associated with mobile homes. And
Mm.
that you're offering a fresh perspective on this dynamic industry. I think it needs to be rebranded. These are not really mobile homes. They're not really being picked up and moved once they're placed there, right? Maybe they're more like manufactured homes, but couldn't we come up with a different name for it and rebrand and like change people's point of view altogether?
We speak about this a lot, and I'm very involved with a lot of the country's board meetings and this types of things, and rebranding and renaming, and I completely agree with it. But there's actually multiple different parties that are working on this as well.
Mm,
But in the end, I think we have to think how the future generations are going to think as well, and that's why our video and YouTube has really been our big focus. I do a lot of government lobbying at DC and that type of thing as well. But what's really going to be a catalyst is for people to realize and fight those old stigmas.
hmm
As younger generations are growing, Gen X, millennials, they don't really have, I'm sorry, as Gen
Yeah,
Z and
Z,
millennials,
right.
they don't really have these horrible associations of mobile home parks. It's actually
Okay.
not big thing for them. But if we look older and older, it's like, don't ever touch a mobile home park. I'm not going to put a single dollar in it. And as the younger generations get older, they're actually more open-minded to these new innovative housing styles, right?
hmm
So it's a bit of a patience game and it is a rebranding.
hmm
But looking from the outside in, the younger generations don't have those like those very really bad stigmas around mobile home.
Okay. Um, are you having to come up with marketing strategies that are different? It sounds like, TikTok, like advertising a home and a mobile home on TikTok, that's outside my box, but sounds like a great idea. That's where they're spending their time. Are
Yeah,
these the tools? Can you tell us a little bit without telling any of your
sure.
secret sauce, but what are some of the innovative marketing strategies that catch the attention of these Gen Z and millennials within the
So
manufactured home space?
yeah, and I'm a complete open book, so there's no secret sauce that we have. But I think the first part is what's fascinating is we all of our homes get sold no matter what because of the demand in housing.
hmm
We're building a solution that gets people out. So every new home that we're building has 16 plus offers. So that's one thing. But again, to our vision and our why, it's more about letting people know about the options. So with what we do, it's more just like you said, breaking the stigmas. We push everything on video on 3D Matterport tours so that people really get to see the shock value of this is a mobile home. This is a mobile home. There's no way, right? And then not only that, but the communities themselves. The communities, they have beautiful swimming pools, spas, you have saunas, you have gyms. A lot of the big amenities that people chase in these apartment complexes, they don't realize that you also have these in these mobile home communities as well. So we really push um, like you said, our big battle is really fighting those stigmas. And we can only do that at scale and mass through video. So whether it's, sometimes we'll do silly music videos, sometimes we'll drive, we'll have just quick drive-throughs and explainers of the tours of the communities themselves.
hmm
And then the other why element is really real life scenarios and real life stories of a family that that is financially secure in this area, right? And these real life stories are really what deliver and transpire for those to understand how this is beneficial, not just for families out there that need it, but also the government entities for them to understand why what our housing problem really is. And, it's, we can't solve this housing problem with just Section 8, with just lower rent models. People have to have an access to something that they can purchase and be able to benefit and get the home ownership benefits as well.
Yeah, these are not tiny homes. These are not for homeless people that, you're putting 8 foot by 8 foot shelters up. Give us an idea of like some data points. What's the average size or the range of these homes in terms of square footage? What's an average purchase price? Um, what other data? And yeah, just let's start with that.
Yeah, so it's going to be different in every area. But in our
Okay.
area, 1,500 square foot, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. And it's what's cool too is the lifestyle element is you have a laundry area and a utility room. We have nice open floor plans, which is what we're finding millennials love nowadays.
Hmm.
And then you have your 3 or 4 car parking spot in right next to your home. So we compare a lot of our business to the apartment rental business, right? Where in many apartments, you actually have, you're going to be on a multi-floor level. You have to go up or downstairs to the garage, and you have very low access to parking is a huge problem, but people are finding this is a way more convenient option. Price point in Silicon Valley, we're typically looking at average price point 300 to 350. If we're talking, I just did work in Austin where the average price point was more like 150, 150,000 or so. So there's a big range. And then I did a project in Malibu, crazy amounts, 600 plus.
Right.
And but I think the key thing is it's going to be relative as a middle point, a middle ground between rents and full real estate ownership.
Sure.
And
And so when you
and
say
if
you
we
did a project in Malibu, does that mean you purchased a home and then rebuilt it and then and marketed it? What does that mean exactly?
So a lot of people reach out to our YouTube channel because they own an old mobile home and they want to convert their old one to one of our beautiful homes.
Hmm.
So that was one of the projects that we did there. We actually did 2 in that area. So it's typically a family that has been living in a 1970s home for a long while, but they can't afford single family home ownership yet. So they'll you take advantage of the lot space that they have because there's a value to be had to just having the rights to that lot inside of the mobile home park.
Hmm.
So we build out their old 800 square foot home and maximize the square footage that we can build on that lot for them. And in many cases, what they'll spend. So, for example,
Is this a
uh,
renovation, by the way, Franco, or as opposed to a tear down rebuild?
we tear down their old home
You
and
do.
then we rebuild.
Okay.
Yeah. So they'll typically spend about 250 or 300,000 with us to
Hmm.
convert their old one to a new one. But what's fascinating is that they can loan that out, but their new assessed value of their mobile home in itself will
Hmm.
be about 4 to 500,000, which becomes a win-win in multiple cases, a win for the resident themselves, a win for us because we get to service them as a business. And then it's also a win for the commute mobile home park and their neighbors as
Sure.
well because it raises the value of their community.
And does the space rent go up as well because the owner of the space says, "Oh, this is a much nicer home, and so I'm going to charge more for the space," or does that not happen?
It doesn't happen. No. So the rent will typically stay the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
great.
it's different. There's different laws in different states, but in California we have a lot of rent protection that keeps them to their payment to stay the same.
That's great. Well, it sounds like you're on the forefront of this industry, and it's great to hear. And I'm very impressed that you're in Washington, you're lobbying, you're involved with the association, which is what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. You've got to step outside of your business, and you've got to get connected with folks in your industry and talking to even your competitors or folks that are doing similar things in other parts of the country. Obviously, you know all this. This is great learning, but that's what's so exciting about what you're doing. And I see great future for you here in this business. Sounds like you've come across a secret treasure and you're sharing it with as many people as you can.
Yeah, and that's really our goal is to just allow for more people to know about this because it is something that can really change lives for those families that might need help with housing.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your expansion plans for this business because the Silicon Valley, we know its reputation. It caters to young VC-backed company employees and a high-tech community. Um, but you have aspirations, and you did work in Malibu. You did something in Austin. You have aspirations to be in San Diego, Los Angeles. These are all cities, and there are many cities across the country that are hurting for affordable housing, but especially in the Sun Belt, states where people want to live still. So,
Yeah.
what's it look like for you in the future of your business?
Our goal is to really expand in many metro areas that as we can. But through that, it's really through sharing our blueprints with other partners that are in other areas. That's our fastest way to be able to help as many families as we can. We've always been a business focused around more success stories over profits. And with that, we want to enable people that are in construction or in a similar space like in Atlanta and be able to build this out in other areas. We just started doing LA, San Diego stuff, but through that, we are working to partner with other companies throughout the country. And that's really our goal.
Good for you. Hey, it's been great having you on the show. If people want to learn more about you, I assume they can go to Franco with a C, that is, .tv and Franco Mobile Homes. That's where they'd find you and find you on YouTube. Is that right?
That's exactly it. And there you can see our 3D tours, our YouTube videos. And if you haven't seen what these homes look like, I definitely urge you to take a look at them.
And we'll include them in the show notes for you folks so you can take a look at it. I know right after this recording, I'm going to go look at one just to see what you're up to. So thanks so much for being on the show. Folks, you know the drill. If you like this, please share it with others. If you know disruptors like Franco Perez who want to come on this show, please reach out to me at the Disruptive Successor Show. And stay tuned for future episodes.
This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Thank you for joining us on the Disruptive Successor Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, review, and share with a friend who would benefit from the message. If you're interested in picking up a copy of my book, Disruptive Successor, go to disruptivesuccessor.com.